Everybody, what's going on? It's your host, Chris Flowers. Here's a deal. Pretty excited to announce that we have Eric Whitmoyer of My Business Coach is coming on. Like I said, a friend of mine. Going to talk about all things business coaching and everything else this guy does. So let's get ready for the show. As always, here's the deal. Like I got to introduce our sponsors. Our main sponsor is Litchfield Auto. Phil and his team are local. They're located at 671 North 137th Avenue in Goodyear, Arizona. And you can give them a call at 623-882-8700. I tell you, like I said, been a customer of theirs for 15 years, have zero reservation about referring anybody there because when you're there, at least there's one fair and honest mechanic. And I can attest to that. Our other sponsor is Clark Barnella, a personal friend of mine over at Phoenician Pool Spa and Patio. I've actually known the guy since literally he was 15 years old. I was friends with his dad. God rest his soul. And if you sign up with a weekly pool service, he will prorate 1 month for free. Weekly services billed monthly are as low as $115 a month. Some restrictions apply due to the size of the pool in the area and things like that. You can give him a call at 602-316-3671. His website is myarizonapoolservice.com. Text him a promo code, here's the deal, and he'll include a filter clean with weekly service for 30% off of any new or upgraded services. So, like I said, thanks to all of our sponsors for supporting the show. Now, I'm gonna have Eric turn on his camera while I read it. Give you a little background on him. I said he and I met at H7. It's a networking group, virtual networking group. You guys want to check that out. We both even served in the Army together. He was in field artillery and I was a forward observer. So I was his eyes out there for that. So on top of his military career, former kickboxing champion. So if you don't pay him, don't make him come collect. Wireless industry leader, business owner of several different businesses, frozen food distribution, martial arts school, coffee shop, online leads business, even a trucking business. The guy's written 4 books. Four. Okay. On top of his business consultant, his journey is marked with dedication, discipline, and relentless pursuit of excellence. His journey from military to the ring and from corporate world to business consulting showcases a remarkable blend of strength, strategy, and vision, which I wholeheartedly agree because I know the man personally. So it's pretty extensive resume, man. I was like, 4 books, like, geez, okay. But let's talk about My Business Coaches because that's why we're here. That's the thing we're here. So you got to tell us more about how you got into doing that, obviously with your background, and then like I said, let's talk more about the coaching side.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So, I kind of came to it, I would say by accident, quite honestly, which I guess probably a lot of people would say that about some of their careers. But in my particular case, it was, after spending 20 some odd years in the wireless industry, I remember the day the owners came to us and said, "Hey, we decided we're going to sell the business." And I had known that the industry was changing. I had paid attention to how things were evolving, and I had begun to develop my career as a life coach. Hence the books that I wrote. The first one I wrote was Success with Goals. And I was going to transition to becoming a life coach. And somebody had mentioned to me they thought I'd be a better business coach. Took me 4 years to hear that, but I appreciate the advice that she provided for me at the time.
Mhm.
That said, when the owners came to us and said they were going to sell the business, I was like, "All right, this is awesome." And then over the next 9 months, during the due diligence process, a big company, so there's a lot of time to plays out that. Uh, I thought I was going to stay in the industry, and then it was made very clear to me that they didn't want me to be part of the company. They wanted the company and not the leadership. So I thought, okay, well, I'm going to go do my life coaching thing, and I realized I'm not sure that that's what I want to be doing. I love the personal transformation. I love helping people transition, but I'm to the point, the feedback that I got from that friend that when she pointed it out to me, I'm very analytical. I'm very practical. I'm very much and I'm very much entrenched with sales and marketing and operational strategy and leadership development, and so those all are primary skill sets for business coaching.
Mhm.
And that just became the goal, the intention, and so as it evolved, I looked at all my entrepreneurial experience. I knew what it was like to run a small business. I knew the inherent risks of running a small business, and the challenges that come with that. But I had also seen what it was like to grow a company to $100 million. I did that twice with two different companies.
Mm.
So when you take those two and you compare them and you realize, wow, this is what it can really look like if you build it correctly. And the payday, or at least the payoff of being able to sell a business, there's something very unique about that opportunity. Which, ironically, Chris, most people probably don't know this, but about 80% of businesses that try to sell never sell and actually end up
Hmm.
just closing doors.
Hmm.
So, as I got into coaching and understanding more and more about, what makes this work, why would coaching be valuable? What are the bigger challenges that most, small business owners have? As I got deeper into that, I quickly realized, okay, there's a lot of businesses out there. People are doing, they're making ends meet, they're getting by, but they're not really thriving.
Hmm.
And it's usually because there's one of six key things that they're missing. And in many cases, it's usually a couple of those. They're really good at two or three of them, and then usually aren't so good at the other two or three, and may not even have one of them, any one of them at all, right?
Or they might
And
not
so
even know what those six things are.
well, most of them don't, right?
Hmm.
Exactly. It's like they have certain things that inherently they, for whatever reason, are already kind of entrenched in their personality. So those skill sets came naturally, but the other ones didn't, and that's where the gap is. And to your point, they don't know what they don't know,
Hmm. Correct.
right? I mean, we hear that all the time, and I think
All the
that
time.
that's where a coach really comes into play, because the coach provides that objective perspective that you can't see, right? You can't see the forest through the trees analogy, right?
Correct.
It's that whole, yeah.
Correct. Correct. So, like, what do you think you've been some of your biggest challenges in the space, and how'd you overcome those?
As it relates to coaching, so first and foremost, my very second client was a digital marketing agency. I took them as a trade of service, so I didn't even charge them. We agreed that I would coach them for free, and they would give me insight on how to about digital marketing.
Hmm.
This was 5 years ago. This is 2019, and I realized immediately getting into this industry that that's where marketing is going, right? Podcast and audio, and video content and all that kind of stuff. Those were all things that they were doing at that time. As a matter of fact, they were probably one of the best video creation teams in the Valley, here in the Phoenix metro area. And their ability to create really great videos and convey that in marketing, that was they're one of the best ones out there. And I'm like, well, if I'm going to learn, I want to learn from somebody who really knows what they're doing.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so I brought them in as a client. We agreed to partner one another, and that was a great 3-year experience, because having to learn that, and really truly inherently understand it and know it so that I could coach to it, not to provide the solution, but actually to be able to guide my client through that experience, was really valuable to me. So that was, and that was hard because that was not something that really came naturally to me, right? The digital
Okay.
marketing space is quite quite. There's a lot to learn there, but I've invested a lot of time and energy in understanding that, and I think that's, again, it's one of those opportunities that most small business owners, they're like, oh, I don't really need that, and the reality is today,
It's
everybody needs it.
essential. It's
Yeah,
essential.
yeah,
Absolutely.
exactly.
And then, what would you say? Like, who's your customer base? Like, who are you looking for customers and things like that?
Yeah, so we really tend to focus our energy on service-based businesses.
Hmm.
So, when I say that, I say we have the blue collar and the white collar, and so on the blue collar side, you have the painters, the plumbers, the landscapers, pool cleaners, things like that. And then, on the white collar side, it's the doctors, dentists, lawyers, accountants, that kind of space. But think anybody who's got a really good trade or professional skill, where they went to school or put a lot of time into learning and perfecting that specific skill set, because that's where they spent all their time. They didn't get an MBA on how to run a business,
Hmm.
right? So generally speaking, they're good at what they do, but they need help with those other pieces.
What's like usually your revenue markers? Like, who are you looking for? Like, number of employees, base revenues, things like
Yeah,
that.
good question. We run the gamut, quite honestly, Chris. We in the beginning, I focused on what we would refer to as a high ticket transaction. So clients that were, a million, a couple of million a year in revenue, and a handful of employees, a dozen or so, maybe, But we realized that as as much as we want to help those clients, and we still do, there's a lot of smaller clients out there that are in that 100,000 to half a million range that couldn't afford our primary one-on-one services. So we created an entirely separate program that gets all the same training. We just do it in a group setting and make it more cost effective for those small business owners. So we have programs that literally you can start for $97 a month and get all the same education and training and insight. May not be specific to your particular business, but we even created hybrid programs for those people too.
That's awesome. So is that maybe, I mean, other than, obviously your edge, being who you are and your background in your field, it's extensive. I didn't even touch on the surface of half the stuff, but but what really sets, My Business Coaches apart from really everybody else?
Most specifically, it would be our collaborative approach. We have a collective of coaches that work together. So most coaching engagements are typically going to be a one-person individual. It's going to come in and engage with you. And yes, we have the same. At least initially, you'll have a your first coach will be your primary contact. But we have access to many other coaches. Currently, today we have 17 coaches.
Hmm.
So we have any one of the coaches, if there's a particular area of business that they're maybe not as adept in, they can reach out to the team. And even we've even done some where we do, we'll have somebody come to the table. We have a regular weekly coaching call with the coaches, and we'll have a coach come to the table and say, hey, I just engaged with this client. This is their concern. This is what they're struggling with. I'm looking for additional ideas, other
Mhm.
suggestions. And so collectively, in a collaborative way, we'll get together, we'll share some ideas and say, hey, I did this once at this company, or I did this once at this time. And we share those ideas with that coach, and then that coach can go back to their client and offer that. So we work in that in a collaborative fashion to really kind of help our clients. We also offer, for instance, we don't, although we're My Biz Coaches, we're going through a transition where we're actually acknowledging that we're professionals who serve business owners, because there's a number of people out there today that are operating in the C-suite, the fractional C-suites. So fractional CFO, fractional COO, they do the same things that we do, right? As a business coach, they're just a little bit more nuanced, a little bit more specific to a particular category or area. And so we're looking for those people as well, because they play an intricate role in our relationship with our clients. When somebody needs to clean up their books from the last 2 years, right, for tax purposes or something like that, we'll go get a fractional CFO and bring them in,
Mhm.
because that's not work we do. But we'll
Right.
bring them in, we'll make the introduction and have them play a role with that client for whatever period of time that they need. And sometimes that becomes an ongoing primary, becomes the primary client at that point.
So everything I'm hearing is delegation and collaboration. That's what
Yep.
that's what I think,
Yep.
My Business Coach is about. And that's what I try to express to like a lot of my clients and a lot of my listeners here. Like I said, being an entrepreneur, like delegation and collaboration. It's gotta be that's gotta be, what stirs the drink. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. Yeah. If I was going to go one step further, Chris, I think that as as business evolves, which we watched it evolve over the last 100 years, right? When you and I, probably 25, 30 years, right, that we've been doing business.
Mhm.
In that span of time, think about how things are different from 30 years ago to where they are today.
Big time.
What does that look like 5, 10 years from now? Right. And think
Especially
about
with
the
AI and
acceleration.
everything too, man. It's crazy.
Yeah, you think about the acceleration and just technology alone. I mean, you brought
Mhm.
it up, but just technology alone is enough to really kind of, I mean, tweak your head. I mean, like literally, it's where this will go and what's going to change in the next 5 years,
Mhm.
right? As opposed to what was, and I would even go so far as to say, if you look at what changed over the last 25 years, we're going to change at that rate at 5 years.
Exactly. I don't want to get too far off of like My Business
Yep.
Coaches. So like I want to keep, I want people to know about you and what you guys are doing. So what is the vision for My Business Coaches? My Biz Coaches.
Well, AI is a big focus of what we're doing,
Okay.
because that's going to play such an integral role in business in general. Um, we again, when we started the company, it was, I'm going to help the small business owner. I'm going to help the business owner grow. We started redefining what small business looks like. and even go so far as the micro businesses at this point, because that's like that 100,000 a year kind of size. But as we look at the opportunities, the biggest gap for most businesses out there is that, again, identifying what are of those 6 core things, what are the ones that they're missing in. Finance is a significant role within any organization, managing cash flow specifically within finance. Knowing what your data is and things like that. So when we help them uncover what these of those 6 core things, when we help them uncover where their opportunities are, then we develop a plan to bolster those up, improve them, whatever the case may be, and scale that up. And we do that through a number of different ways. It could be through educational processes, like we have a series of courses and programs and videos that people can watch. We also do that through engaging conversation, right? We talk through it. How does it relate specifically to your business? But as the technology increases and enhances, how do you get that information out fast enough for people to adapt to, right? Because that's really what it comes down to. So many businesses in the past were able to go years without having to learn a certain component of business. That won't be the case as it relates to things going forward, particularly as it relates to marketing, sales strategy, right? Things like that you're not going to be able to, if you could get by in the past on being and had a weak sales process or something like that, you likely probably won't make it very long. I mean, we've all heard the percentages of people that in businesses that last. That's not gonna be the same in the years going forward. It's gonna turn over much quicker. So it's that's something we're very passionate about, is understanding the technology and the AI component, and helping our clients understand which portions of that they need to adapt to their business to be successful moving forward.
Yeah, that's really good information. Like I say, you got to be thinking, future thinking. You got to be, like I said, I tell people all the time, I tell my clients all the time, like, I play chess, so I think 3 moves ahead. Okay, we're going to talk
Right.
about this particular thing that we're doing right now, but we're also going to have those conversations where we're already setting the next phases for the next levels and things like that. Well, we got to have that conversation today. It's not
Right.
something that can wait, especially now with, like I said, the enhancements in technology, things like that, things that have to move forward at an exponential rate. Is there
Absolutely.
anything that we haven't really discussed about my biz coaches yet that you want to make sure that the listeners hear?
Well, I think that I think for the average business owner out there is, if you're honest with kind of where you're at and where you're going and what you want to accomplish, I think most business owners could do a better job of clearly identifying where they want to go with their business. And if there's a business owner out there that feels like they're not where they want to be, they're struggling, they can't seem to get momentum, it's likely because you're not clear on where you're going. If you listen to any personal development guru, they'll tell you have to know where you're going to be able to put a plan together to decide how to get there, right?
Mhm.
It's just like, you did maps, right? We were in the military, right?
Yes, sir.
You can't get from here to there unless you know where there is, right?
Mhm.
And so if you don't clearly identify where your destination is, you can't draw the line on the map to figure out how to get there. You have to know where you're going. And I think that a lot of people lose sight of that, because you start your business, you get it going, and you're making some money and things are going fine. And you get to a point where you're kind of like, okay, well, everything's good. And then you get it and you put it in neutral and you just kind of coast.
Mm.
And I think that anybody in business has, if you've been around for any length of time, you realize that you can't really do that,
No.
right? You have to be pushing, you have to constantly be pushing forward. However, it's human nature to get to a certain level and then coast, right? Once you find your comfort level, whatever that is, whether that's a revenue number or an income number or whatever it is for you in your life, once you find that level of comfort, if you don't have something pushing you from the outside externally, um, uh, your internal
Would
thermometer will get to a certain point and you'll slow
I was gonna
down.
say
And
it needs to be more internal than external. At least I would hope so. At least
well, so yeah, so that's what I'm
maybe
saying is
that's
that if
just
you don't
our structure, the way we're built.
well, and what I mean to say is that when I say, if you don't have something externally like competition
Yeah.
pushing you,
Okay. Gotcha. Yeah.
right?
Okay.
If you don't already have the competition pushing you, if you don't have something externally pushing you, but you've reached a certain level internally where you're like, the bills are paid, I got money in the bank, things are good. It's easy to fall into that comfort level. And
Gotcha.
then you fall, and if you stay there for too long, let's say 6 months, a year and a half, something like COVID, something like the
Mm,
'08 financial debacle, right? Anything along those lines. And those are big, right? It doesn't even have to be that big.
no,
Um,
it could be something
but it's
internally in your particular business itself. Man, certain
it
like
could, yeah,
top level person leaves, your top
exactly.
salesperson leaves, or your business
Exactly.
manager who was like your right arm leaves, or things like that. And then you're like, now what? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the problem is as soon as you allow yourself to get comfortable, something is going to happen. And when it does, now you're like, it's not like it's what's the best now? Okay, you're in a boat, right? Now you can set the boat, you can set the wheel. You don't have to sit there. You can just put it, a certain speed or whatever, and just kind of be cruising across the lake if there's nobody else in the water, right? You just kind of. But if all of a sudden the wind picks up and the waves start kicking, that kicks the boat left to right or whatever, now all of a sudden you got to jump up. And if you were laying in the back and you got to run to go grab the wheel, there's a lot of lost time in the process, and there's a
Mhm,
good likelihood that you hit the wrong wave, the wrong angle, and you're going to flip the boat before you
mhm.
have the ability to course correct. And that's the same analogy I use with business owners, because the reality is if you are too far removed from every day on top of it, and you go to jump into it and you don't have a process to ensure that you've delegated effectively, you have the right people in the places, right? You lose that key person. Now all of a sudden you're, yeah, not only do you have to replace them, you have to go through the process of determining who's the right person to replace them.
Mm,
and
yeah.
and to your point earlier, we have to have the conversation now. The worst part is we needed to have that conversation 3 months ago
Right.
to vet and find the right person to replace that person. So because we didn't have the opportunity to do that, now it's like all hands on deck, right? Everybody's got to grab the, and
Scramble.
that, yeah. And so now you got this mad scramble. So my point is with coaching, coaching allows you to kind of keep your hands on the wheel to a certain degree, and stay and know what you need to be looking at on a regular basis, whether that's employee engagement conversations, customer engagement conversations. And one of the best ways to know how your business is doing is ask your customer what they think,
Mm,
right? You have certain KPIs that you manage to. And so we help you identify what those things are so you can keep your hand on the wheel without having to be actively involved in everything that's going on every day. But
KPIs
you
are
know
known
how to,
performance indicators, just for those who didn't know.
thank you. Yes.
Don't speak the large, you had the jargon
That's
there
right. Right.
for
So, but yeah, I think that
newer
that's,
businesses, things like that.
yeah, absolutely. And I think that that's a key component of, what the value of what coaching can bring to the table for
Mhm.
people.
All right. So tell people how to get a hold of you, man. Tell people, how, like I said, how do we tap into the brain, man? How do we get a hold of you?
Well, we have a number of different sources to reach out to us, and certainly social media is a way to do it. But best way is just go check out the website. It's my biz coaches, BIZCOACHES .com, mybizcoaches.com. And everything you need to find is on there. Social media, certainly we're on all the different platforms. But the best way to engage with that, go there, schedule an appointment, schedule a consultation. They're free. We'll walk through your certain circumstance, kind of where you're at today, give you some advice. If nothing else, it'll be a 30 to 45-minute conversation where you'll get some good insights of what
Mhm.
you could do for your business, even if we don't end up engaging with one another. But it'll be a valuable investment for yourself.
Yeah, that's fantastic. That's great information. Once again, thanks, brother. Thanks for coming on. Thanks for clearing the schedule for us. Like I said, certainly appreciate it. I'm sure all the listeners appreciate it. And thanks for all that you do. Like I said, it's great being a member of H7 with you and things like that. Being in the networking group with you. Um, and look forward to doing more business with you, man.
Absolutely. Appreciate it. Well,
And
thank you, Chris. I
yeah,
appreciate being on.
your podcast too.
Yeah, absolutely. Looking forward to it. We have to get you set up.
Roger that. All right,
All
brother.
right,
You have
man.
a good weekend. Thanks so much for your time, man.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right. And as always, in closing, here's the deal. First of all, I want to thank my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ for saving my eternal soul. Thank you very much for the blood, in your grace and unmerited favor. Thank you, Lord, for my wife and my family who support me in all this and everything that I do. Couldn't do it without them. And of course, the sponsors. We love having Litchfield Auto. We love Phoenician Pool Spa and Patio, and more to come. Got a couple more coming on. then also you, the listeners, subscribers. Thank you guys so much. Like I said, we're going to keep having great guests on like Eric. Just keep tuning in and keep moving forward. And have a good weekend. Bye.